Betrayal, as they say, frequently comes from the least expected places, and I didn't see it coming. I didn't anticipate that it would be Daniel, my closest friend, or at least the man I once regarded as my brother. The person I confided in about my triumphs, my secrets, and yes, my failures. The man who supported me during my college exams, late-night ramen runs, and countless discussions on how together we would conquer the globe. Amanda, my fiancée, was the center of my dreams, a magnificent, ambitious, and charming axis that left me completely helpless. For years, I believed I had everything, a prosperous business in its early stages, a future with Amanda, and a great friend who was like family. Yet it all broke down one chilly evening when Amanda admitted, with unsteady words, "It's Daniel. I think I love him." My initial response wasn't one of rage, but of incredulity. I must have misheard. The words she spoke conflicted with everything I knew about Daniel. My mind raced to piece them together, but I wanted to face him, right then. How could he? Something stopped me. Perhaps it was embarrassment. No, it was my pride. I refused to give him the satisfaction. Amanda's. Words kept echoing in my mind. We didn't mean for it to happen. A kind of bitter satisfaction welled up within me, proof of how deeply they had hurt me. That night, I ended things with Amanda. Even as she cried and pleaded, I walked away without looking back. Daniel didn't bother to contact me. Perhaps he believed I wouldn't dare confront him. At the time, I had no idea how much I would rebuild. I immersed myself in work. My sadness turned into a powerful fuel, an obsession, really. I worked late into the night, poured myself into networking, mastering my craft, and turning my pain into progress. Amanda didn't deserve the space in my thoughts, and Daniel was mistaken to believe he had shattered me. The betrayal left scars, yes, but it also shaped me. My friendship with Daniel ended for reasons far deeper than Amanda. It wasn't just the relationship, it was the death of a brotherhood. Did I miss him? Sometimes I missed the man I thought he was, the one who had my back. Not the one who twisted the knife while smiling. Each milestone I reached became a reminder of their failure to break me. By the 5th year of my business, I had built something undeniable, something they could never touch. My small office had transformed into a sleek downtown headquarters, all glass walls and sweeping views of the city. I had partnerships with household brands, invitations to elite events, and a reputation that spoke for itself. Yet, for all my professional success, my personal life remained quiet. When people asked why I wasn't dating or married, I'd brush it off with a laugh saying, "I'm married to my job." The truth was, trust didn't come easily anymore. Losing both Amanda and Daniel in a single blow had left me more cautious than I cared to admit. Over the years, I heard whispers of their life together. A wedding in the Maldives, a mansion in the suburbs, luxury cars, and extravagant vacations. Their world seemed perfect on the surface, but I often wondered how much of it was just for show. I no longer hated them. No. The fire inside me had burned away that bitterness, leaving only a dull ache, a memory of what once was. 10 years passed. 10 years since Daniel and Amanda tore my world apart, and 10 years since I started rebuilding. They thought they had taken everything from me. But in truth, they gave me the clarity to see who I could trust, and who I couldn't. Betrayal taught me resilience. Pain became my foundation, and from it, I built an empire that no treachery could touch. And then, one ordinary Tuesday, my assistant brought me an envelope. "It's from the Summit of Innovators," she said, a note of excitement in her voice. This was no ordinary invitation. It was a prestigious retreat for the brightest minds in the business world. I deliberated for days. Part of me wanted to avoid the pomp and showmanship of high society, but my ambition won out. I RSVP'd. I had no idea that this decision would thrust me back into a storm I thought I'd left behind. The resort was as lavish as the invitation. Promised. A secluded haven with mountain views and impeccable service. On the first night, I attended a welcome reception. The room buzzed with power and influence, a symphony of wealth and ambition. And then, I heard a voice I hadn't heard in a decade. I turned slowly. There they were, Daniel and Amanda. Time had been kind to Amanda's beauty, though her eyes carried a certain weariness. Daniel wore his trademark confident grin, though he too had aged. They hadn't expected to see me here. Why would they? They'd written me off long ago. Daniel, I said evenly. Amanda. It's been a while, Daniel said, forcing a smile. Let's catch up sometime. I shook his hand, firm but detached. Sure, I replied casually. They walked away, unaware of how much I'd changed. They didn't know that the man standing before them was no longer the one they had betrayed. As the week unfolded, I didn't avoid them, but I didn't seek them out either. I focused on my goals, on the future I had built. Betrayal may have shaped me, but it didn't define me. 10 years ago, they tried to break me. Today, I stand as a man they wouldn't even recognize, a man they couldn't bring down. My wife had a way of commanding attention without being demanding, and the atmosphere felt completely different after she arrived. Her fascinating personality, which combined warmth and confidence, made others want to be around her. I felt a sense of quiet pride as I gravitated toward her, watching her walk through the crowd, greeting individuals with her distinctive charm. That was unavoidable. She was not only respected, but also idolized. People whispered her name in amazement, with some even interrupting their talks to approach her. For most of them, she was a leader, an industrial titan, whose achievements had set new standards. To me, she was the spouse who had supported me through all my difficulties, whose unwavering faith in me had kept me from falling off the edge. At multiple moments, Daniel and Amanda lingered near the buffet table. Their former bluster had been replaced by visible unease. I approached them with a mixture of bewilderment and incredulity. My wife caught my faint smile as I drew closer, having already figured everything out long before I did. Daniel turned. As I said in a calm but firm tone, I'd like you to meet someone. His face lost its color as my wife stepped forward, her presence commanding yet graceful. Amanda froze in place next to him, her eyes darting between the two of us. With her usual charm, my wife extended her hand and said, Hello, I'm Evelyn. Her voice kind but unmistakably assertive. Daniel automatically clasped her hand, his smile wavering as he tried to comprehend the situation. Amanda's calmness faltered, her eyes betrayed her nervousness, and her courteous smile cracked. Daniel's gaze flicked to Evelyn, and he repeated her name almost inaudibly, as if trying to make sense of what was happening. The irony wasn't lost on me. Years ago, he had stolen what he thought was the pinnacle of my happiness. Yet here was Evelyn, a woman who not only surpassed Amanda in every way, but also represented a life rebuilt after their betrayal. As the interaction played out, I stood back, letting Daniel and Amanda squirm. It wasn't just Evelyn's presence that astounded them. It was what she stood for, her accomplishments, her reputation, and the sheer force of her personality. When Amanda finally spoke, her voice was tight and strained, a far cry from the self-assured woman I once knew. Evelyn, with a subtle smile that could disarm even the harshest critic, replied casually but directly, making it clear she was in control of the situation. Daniel's confidence seemed to crumble as he realized the life he had dismissed years. Ego had flourished without him. Amanda, too, struggled to maintain her composure. By the end of the conversation, their previous smugness had been replaced with visible discomfort. As the day went on, their attempts to engage with me grew more awkward. Daniel, once so eager to flaunt his success, now seemed unsure of himself. Amanda, who had always been poised and self-assured, appeared to be a shadow of her former self. Their carefully curated facade was unraveling, thread by thread. That evening, as Evelyn and I sat on the terrace overlooking the mountains, I felt a profound sense of peace. For the first time in years, I was free from the bitterness that had once consumed me. Evelyn placed her hand lightly on mine and murmured, "They didn't see this coming." I nodded, my gaze fixed on the horizon. No, they didn't. The next day, Daniel and Amanda's discomfort was even more apparent. Their once perfect image was riddled with cracks they could no longer hide. I overheard snippets of their conversations, laced with frustration and regret. Their struggles no longer brought me satisfaction. I had moved past the need for revenge. I had found my peace. During a networking brunch, Daniel approached me, his demeanor cautious yet determined. I wanted to say, "It's impressive what you've built," he began, his voice lacking its usual confidence. I listened as he stumbled through an apology, his words heavy with sincerity. For a moment, I felt the weight of the past lift. "What's done is done," I said simply, and he nodded, a mix of relief and sadness on his face. Amanda, too, let down her guard. Later that evening, she admitted, "We lost more than just you, we lost ourselves." Her words were raw and uncharacteristically vulnerable. I didn't respond with anger or triumph. Instead, I offered her the same calm I had found within myself. By the retreat's end, Daniel and Amanda's facade had completely shattered. They were no longer the confident, untouchable pair they once pretended to be. Evelyn and I, on the other hand, left stronger than ever, our bond unshaken by the ghosts of the past. As we stepped into the cool night air, I held her hand and smiled. The roles had reversed, and for the first time in years, I could truly leave the past behind.